Hello and welcome back. Tuesdays with Tess. Let's talk about some benefits. I hope everyone had an amazing Memorial Day weekend. But now that you're back, it's time to get to work. Renewals are coming up. So let's talk about it. I think one of the most frustrating components of just the whole renewal process is getting that initial number and just knowing that it's kind of bullshit. So here's a probably familiar scenario. You get a number, maybe it's a 9%, maybe it's a 14%, it's probably higher. Then the broker calls and said, market is tough right now. What I realized almost never happens is someone sitting down and explaining what that number actually means, where it came from, whether it's justified, and what are our solutions to help optimize this as much as possible. Okay, that's what we're going to do today. First, let's go over what a renewal letter actually is. A renewal letter is a carrier's open bid. That's it. It's not a calculation you are required to accept. It is a number generated by an actuarial model that the carrier controls based on data you may never have seen. A lot of the claims, remember, 80% of claims are incorrect. A lot of those claims are auto adjudicated. So who knows what the correct bill is, what your number is actually supposed to be? You need that data. Most employers treat their renewal like a utility bill, something that goes up every year for reasons that they can't explain. The carriers benefit from this assumption. Here's what's usually in a renewal letter and what each piece actually means. So, first is the renewal rate action. This is the headline number, your percent increase. What it does not tell you is how that number was derived. And that's what we want to hone in on. Was it experience rated, meaning your actual claims history drove it, or was it manually rated, meaning the carrier looked at your industry, your demographics, your geography, and then applied their own magical calculation to get you your market rate? But these two methods produce very different numbers and warrant very different responses. Okay, second thing to look for is the trend factor. Carriers apply a trend factor to account for projected medical cost inflation, typically somewhere between 7 and 11% annually in recent years. And I'll give you a quick example. Let's say this year you go and you get a $100,000 surgery. Well, for your stop loss premium, let's say your specific deductible is 50 grand. So the company pays up to 50 grand, and then the other half, the other 50 grand, is the carrier's responsibility. Remember, they're self-funded. Okay, so now next year, we're looking at, let's say, a 9% increase in medical trend. Okay, we're going to keep this company's specific deductible at $50,000. So with a 9% medical increase, that means that that knee surgery that this employee got this year, next year, it's going to cost $109,000. Well, since the company is keeping the same specific stop loss, they're still paying 50K. But now the carrier is paying 59K. Rather than a 9% medical trend increase, the carrier is actually experiencing double that. They're experiencing an 18% trend increase. So that's why you're always going to see medical inflation and medical trend grow at a much faster pace than inflation. Either way, you want to know how much trend is being applied to your renewal. Okay, third, the experience adjustment. If you're large enough to be experience rated, the carrier will show you an adjustment based on your claims history. So this is usually expressed as a ratio of actual claims to expected claims. If your actual claims were lower than expected, that should work in your favor. Whether it actually does depends on how the carrier weights the experience period. So you have your column of claims. That's a majority percent of your spend, right? It's about 70, 80% of your spend. Well, that is divided into two groups, manual and your experience. And so, what a lot of people don't know is that the carrier can artificially manipulate those 2 points to work in their favor. And so, that really needs to be looked at, especially if you are fully insured or in the early years of self funding. All right, fourth, the retention load. This is the carrier's cut. Administration, profit margin, risk charge, broker commission is also included in there. On a fully insured plan, this number is bundled and rarely disclosed in the renewal letter. It typically runs between 18 and 25% of premium, and you're paying it whether you see it or not. Okay, fifth, what is not in the letter? There is no line showing your loss ratio. There's no breakdown of your top cost drivers. There's no comparison of your trend to your actual claims. There's no projection of what happens if you change plan design, if you change funding structure, or if you change your network. All of that information you have to ask for. Okay, I've been in this business a while. So let's talk about the phrases you need to watch out for. Carriers and brokers, this entire industry has a vocabulary that sounds informational but isn't. Here are 3 phrases that should trigger a follow up question. Phase 1, your claims experience has been unfavorable. Okay, it happens. Unfavorable compared to what? The expected loss ratio in the carrier's model, the national trend, our own prior experience. What's the benchmark here? All right, phrase 2. We've been able to negotiate the renewal down to X%. Okay, down from what? If the carrier's opening number was inflated, which it always is, a reduction still leaves you overpaying. So the question is whether X% is actuarially justified based on your actual experience, not whether it's lower than this arbitrary number that they pulled out of who knows what. The market is hardening right now. Again, this is a real phenomenon. Reinsurance costs and catastrophic claims nationally do affect pricing, and they are out of control. But it's also kind of convenient because it can be used as a catch-all explanation for increases that really don't have any justification or anything to do with market conditions. Ask your broker to show you comparable alternative carrier quotes. If the market is truly hard, all the quotes will look similar. If the alternatives are meaningfully lower, the market conditions explanation doesn't hold. Also, what solutions, what ideas are they bringing to the table? There are so many out there. Okay, and finally, what a good broker brings to you before your renewal. A true consultant doing their job, it brings you the following 60 to 90 days before your renewal. Your trailing 24-month loss ratio with the underlying claims report. This will look a little different if you're fully insured. Your PMPM broken out by medical and pharmacy. Your top 5 claim categories by spend. A modeled alternative, preferably an alternative funding analysis. Let's look at a captive. Let's look at a consortium. Let's look at direct contracting. Let's look at episodic care. Let's think outside the box and see what is best for your company. And then obviously a recommendation with rationale. That is a broker's or consultant's main job. They are there to vet the market for you, to consistently stay informed and make sure that you are in the best possible position for your circumstance. Employee benefits have become such a huge line item on an employer's budget that it has to be taken seriously. Right now, most of the employers that I talk to have a very transactional process with their broker. They discuss their renewal 30 to 45 days before effective day and have to rush everything together. And that's not a knock on you. That is industry default. Most employers don't know to expect more, but now you do. The majority of things that I described today are features of the fully insured model. A structure where the carrier controls the data, they set the price and profit from the spread between your premium and your claims. There is an alternative structure where you control the data, you fund only what your employees actually spend on care, and with the right risk architecture, protect yourself from any catastrophic exposure. That structure is self-funding, and the risk architecture is stop loss insurance. Next week, I'm going to break down exactly how stop loss insurance works, specific attachment points, aggregate attachment, and what a first year actual self-funded plan looks like financially. I have a document that I have created. It's 11 questions you need to ask your broker well before your next renewal. Send me a message and I would be happy to send a copy over to you. See you next week.